All right, so we're back. Let's talk about the X Files. You wrote the theme and were the sole composer. How
Right.
did you get involved with the show?
Well, um, at the time I lived in Santa Monica. Again, maybe not right around the corner, but where are we now? This is 22nd Street, but I had a place on 15th Street, right above Montana. And I turned my garage into a studio. And I had a friend, actually it was a family friend, one of my wife's friends, and a producer named Bob Goodwin, R.W. Goodwin. And he was hired to do this X-Files pilot. And he put in a good word for me, and maybe a few other people did. But it was between me and 4 or 5 other composers. I never knew who they were. All I knew is that at the time, Chris Carter lived in the Palisades, and I was the closest. So that was immediately a big deal. So, anyway, I get the show, and what's so incredible about it, or one of the many things, is, I watch it and I think, oh, this is pretty good, you know. But who knew that it was going to turn into the X-Files, if you know what I mean? So, because of my friend Bob Goodwin, Chris decided to interview me and I think a few other people, I'm not sure. He came to my studio and he listened to some music for, I don't know, half hour or so, and he shook my hand and said, "Thank you for your time, and we'll be in touch." Okay. I didn't know what to think, except that was interesting. But he was extremely there was nothing flamboyant or flashy or emotionally, or dramatic about him. He's quiet, and I couldn't tell what he really thought is what it was. So he leaves, and I go about whatever else I was doing, and he calls back 2 weeks later and says, "Do you mind if I come over again?" I said, "Okay, fine." Same exact process. Comes over, listens, shakes my hand. "All right, we'll be in touch." Goes away. I don't know if it was a week or 2 or longer, and then agent calls and says, "Well, you've got that show." And I said, "That's nice," not knowing what the future held. So, and then it came time to, right off the bat, to come up with a theme. And he sent me all kinds of CDs of different groups and music. And he said, "On this one, I like the sax here, I like the singing here, I like the drums here, I like the keyboard here, I like this, piece of music in here," and, So those are the things I kind of like. He said, I'm not saying copy any of it, I'm just saying, where my head's at musically. Okay. So I listen, I come up with something, and I think it's really a shame that I don't have that anymore. That's too bad. But whatever it was what you'd think a sci-fi show theme would sound like. What do I mean by that? I mean like fast, loud, something like that. So he comes and hears this thing and says, "That's good. That's really very good. But it's just a little overproduced, and let's just try it again." But he was so nice. He was so really decent and respectful. Comes back again. Same thing happens. I write something else along those lines, and he goes, I really appreciate your work and your time, and, and I know you're a really good composer, but, okay. The third time, same exact thing. And then I said, "Now look," I wasn't upset or impatient or anything. I just said, "I have an idea. Why don't you," I didn't say, "Why don't you get lost and I'll I'll take it from here, which I implied, why don't, you go about your business and I'll go about mine. I'll try something. We'll start right from scratch. We'll throw all of this away. So he says, okay, good idea. He leaves, and I turn and I put my hand, actually my elbow, forearm on the keyboard, and there was this sound effect of this echo, delay echo effect on the piano sound, and it went da 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 ba 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 ba. And I said, "Oh, that's pretty good. Now I wonder if you do two notes, what's that sound like? Ba 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 ba. How about three? Ba ba da ba ba da ba. How about four? Ba ba da da ba da da ba da da ba da. Oh, that's pretty cool. All right, let's consider that." And he kept saying, I just make it simple. I just don't want overproduced and and big and what you'd expect. I just really want it honest and simple. And I thought, okay, well, here's a good start with this da ba da da ba da da ba da da ba da da. Okay, and I thought, all right, what's next? The next thing is what goes under that. All right, let's just try one note, one single low pad with some other sounds in it, but on that note. I think that note was an A for all you people out there. So that's just holding da ba da da ba da da ba da da ba da da. That's good. All right, now what? There's something missing. Oh, it's the tune. It's the themes, the melody. All right, let's fool around with that. So on the piano, without any of that echo sound, I go da 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 da, whatever it was, and it slowly came to this ultra simple tune. And then the final ingredient was what plays it, what instrument plays the thing. And I'm thinking, well, this has to be really, really different. And what could that be? And I just kept experimenting with all kinds of sounds in my library. And here comes the whistle sound. There was this thing called Whistling Joe, number 126 on the Proteus synthesizer number. But it sounded pretty good. And my wife, she's hearing this. She's walking, the door was open. She's walking outside in the backyard. She comes, he says, what the hell is that? That's really good. That's really interesting. I said, you think so? She said, yeah, it's got this eerie kind of whistle thing and this simple accompaniment that's going along with it. And do you think it should be more than that? And I said, well, I don't know. Let's just see what he says. And, and I said, hey, you can whistle too, right? Yes. Well, how about, humming along with it or whistling along with it? And she, oh, no, Anyway, I got her to do it and combined it in there. Anyway, so he calls up and he says, anything cooking? You got anything going? I said, yeah. I'd like you to hear this anyway. He comes over and he hears it, and typical Chris Carter fashion, he's listening, he's sitting there, and I'm watching him. I'm watching for any kind of, reaction, and not much. And then he finally says, I like that. That's good. All right, let's go with it. Okay. So I thought, boy, that was easy. We should have started that from the beginning. So that was how the theme came to be. But one of the best stories about it was a few months later when the show started to take off. Oh, no. But before the show was even on, Chris said, look, Fox, the executives have to hear this theme, okay? So he said, I'll meet you at room number 7 over at the studio. I'll be there, and we'll just play it for them, and it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. So I said, how are they going to hear it? He said, oh, do you have a boom box or, something and a cassette? Yeah. All right. Show up with it. I see him there, and he looks at his watch and goes, "Oh, I can't stay. I have to go to the casting now. And look, just handle it. It's fine. No big deal." So I go in and I see these guys in, formally attired in their suits, and they seem nice, And they say, "Hey, Mark, hi, how are you? Okay, good. All right, let's hear what you got." So push the button, and they hear it, and they are completely frozen in this world of not knowing what to say, whether they were expecting dun 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 dun, some big ass, sci-fi theme or. So the first guy breathes and goes, and they look at each other, and one guy speaks up. "Well, this has, and he's making, he's moving like this and thinking. It just is so. It's got something. It's nice. There's something about it." Okay, and then he goes, "Bob," and he throws it over to the next guy. And the next guy does the same thing. I don't remember who they were exactly. And the next guy goes, "You're right. I'm looking at something, and I'm feeling something." And then he says, "Jim," and he throws it over to Jim. And Jim goes, "You guys are completely right. I am totally with you. It's something that, you might have heard, but you've never heard, right? It's different, but it's not." They didn't know what to say. And they said, "Well, okay." They walked out of there like, I could tell they were uncomfortable. Not unhappy, just like, what the hell was this? So then months later, and the show starts taking off, and people are talking about this cool theme. One of them called and said, "Mark?" "Yeah." "Hey, Mark, this is Jim, remember, from the meeting?" "Oh, yeah, Jim. Hi, how are you?" "Great. Didn't we tell you how great this theme was?" I said, "Jim, you did, and thank you, and thank your two colleagues, because if it wasn't for you," anyway. So I love that one.
Can you talk a little bit about the timing and the rhythm of the theme?
Well, it's this. I guess the meter is like a 12/8 triplet feel for the rhythm. Now you're looking over to the side. You don't know what that means, do you? No, of course not. How about you back there? Anyone? All right. So you see, when we talk about X-Files, things get a little more upbeat. So it's a 12/8 rhythm figure where there's like 4 beats, but each beat has 3 notes. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, pa-pa-ta, ta-pa-ta, ta-pa-ta, ta-pa-ta. So that was the rhythm of the accompaniment piano part, da-ba-da-da-ba-da-da-ba-da-da-ba-da-da-da, but the melody was just on the beats themselves, the main beats, a bom, 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 bom. Pretty damn simple. And even more simple, wah, holding underneath the whole thing, supporting it. So that's it.
Did the theme ever change at all throughout the whole series?
I mean, as the theme, or no, never.
Because I think the opening credits changed a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. And every time, what's interesting about all kinds of themes, whether it's Hawaii Five-0 from the past or anything, is when they're re-recorded, even if it's the same exact everything, there's always, doesn't quite ever sound like the original. And especially with X-Files when it's all electronic stuff, because that's totally unpredictable. You don't have the same exact reverb or EQ setting on some of these things, and so what happened, we tried it, and there was a blast of fan mail. What the hell is that? Who redid that? So and then after that we just kept using it, and that was that.
All right, let's stop for 1 second. Okay, going back to the theme a little bit.
Yes.
It was released as a single.
Right.
Can you tell us about that?
Right. A fellow named Jeff Bywater at Fox, who was head of the music for TV department there, said, hey, they want to release this as an instrumental single in foreign territories. You know, could you please add something to it or make it longer than the 30 seconds it is, or 40 seconds, whatever it is. And I said, okay, sure. So I added a middle part to it that was never used in the series, just on this recording. And it turned it into, I guess, a 3-minute piece, new middle section, and then it goes back to the opening and ends. So, excuse me. So it was released in Europe, maybe other places too, but it turned out to be a big hit in France and the UK, and it was a perfect time for me to go, you know, on a barge trip in Bordeaux, and I go into a record store and say, I'm Monsieur Neige, which means Mark Snow, and Mr. Snow in French. And they'd say, no, you're not. And then I forget how I could prove myself, right? I don't remember, but, you know, some, you know, dopey tourist walks into some place in France, says, you know, I'm Mark Snow. Oh, yeah, really? So, but probably the most frustrating part of that whole thing was this was Warner Brothers releasing it. And they could have released it in America, and it would have probably been a hit as well, but they chose not to. Because I think they thought, no singing, it's a little too left field here. It's not a song, you know, it's not a pop song. But it did great overseas.
Covered a ton
Yeah,
as well.
that too. You know, and everywhere from the most thrashing, you know, heavy metal stuff, to punk stuff, to country, you know, with slide guitar, and God, everything in between, you know, plus an orchestral version that I actually conducted at different music festivals around the world. Good old days.
So on the business side of that, do you own the rights to the theme, or how did that all go down?
Yes and no. You know, there are two forms of ownership of music. There's the copyright or the publishing, and then there's the writer's royalties. And they're two separate, distinct, let's say, 100% pies, let's say. So if I make $10 as the writer, the owner, the publisher makes $10. But I didn't own it. It was owned by Fox Music, and that's how it is for all composers. Now the studios or the studios, or not the networks, the studios have music publishing companies that own the music. So, I mean, it was not bad being the writer, certainly, but if I was the owner or publisher, if I owned the copyright, I'd get just twice as much. There was a composer from the past who I had actually studied with. His name was Earl Hagen, who wrote the themes for, you know that name?
Mm-hmm. Andy Griffith.
That's right. And it was my X-Files was kind of secretly an homage to him, because he whistled the Andy Griffith theme himself. I thought he got some professional guy, but he was asked by the producers with, you know, all his old shows, Mod Squad, the I Spy, all the Half Hour, Gomer Pyle, Dick Van Dyke, all those shows. The producers would say, Earl, what's this music publishing thing? I got the stuff I have to fill out. What's this all about? He says, no, don't worry about it. I'll take care of that for you. I'll just charge you $500, my fee for doing my orchestra stuff. $500? Is that all you can do it for that? Yeah, I'll take care of it. So he puts himself down as the publisher, you know, and then the studios found out about this, not necessarily his situation, but how much money there was to be made with music publishing. They said, well, enough of that. We own the damn stuff. So, but he got away with it. So he's not with us anymore. And but his, estate is pretty well taken care of.
Did you study with him?
I did. He had this class. He lived out in Calabasas. He was just the sweetest, nicest, smart, and a spectacular composer that no one knew his range, because a lot of people thought of him only as the guy who did these half-hour shows. They didn't realize how cool he was, and doing experimental music, not necessarily for TV shows, but really, really an open-minded, wonderful guy. And back then it was no synthesizers, and we would learn about the technique of film and the sprockets and the mag versus the thing and what this means, a lot of technical things, but more importantly, the music. And it wasn't like, let's look at, bring in the music you wrote, let's just hear it and look at it with the picture and let's discuss it, why I think this part works and this part doesn't, et cetera, and what I would do or what you might think of doing differently. All right. So it was like 8 or 9 people. We'd go out there early evening, and be there until like 3 in the morning, and he wouldn't kick us out. We'd be like, okay, can we go now? And he said, oh, no, we're not quite done. I want to, and before we all got involved, we asked him, well, how much does it cost for us to take this class with you? Because this would last for like 3 months or something like that. And he said, well, the fee is 12 dozen golf balls. He was a big golfer. And he was right behind the Calabasas Country Club. And I played golf a little bit back in the day. And he said, hey, you want to join me? I said, sure. He was damn good. He was amazing. He was incredible. And we're leaving, and I'm getting into my Volkswagen Beetle, and he's getting into his Rolls Royce. I'm thinking, he was the least pretentious guy I ever knew. And I said, what's this? What's this all about? And he said, I just like it. What's wrong with it? Nothing at all. Anyway, so.
That's great.
Yeah.
So let's go back to X-Files and
Yes.
talk about the score. Starting with the pilot, did Chris Carter give you any specific guidelines for
Yes. Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'm just trying to think. The first people involved in the show, besides Chris and the writers and directors, was this music editor named Jeff Charbonneau. Now, that's where I met him, Jeff Charbonneau, and he was responsible for taking temp music and putting it in the pilot. In other words, music from other TV shows and movies, and playing it for Chris and the other producers. And they said, gee, we want this kind of sound, and he'd go find it, and what about this? Yeah, that's good, put it in. Okay, and then once they all approved that, then they showed it to me, and they said, this is the kind of stuff we're looking for. I said, okay, that sounds good. And that's what that stuff was real ambient sound type stuff, almost like vapor, just shh, nothing much, with an occasional boom here and there, And I did it, and they liked it, and that was the beginning of that. But the important part is that stuff didn't, after a while, after episode, who knows what, 5 or 6 or 4, somewhere in there, I thought, gee, this is getting a little monotonous. I mean, just shh, maybe we could start stretching out a bit. And I said, hey, I'm going to try something, and they said, like what? I said, I don't know. I can't put it into words. I can't quite, I really don't know yet, but I think we have to, not, dump this sound, but just add to it or enhance it somehow. They said, that's fine. But, let us know when you're going to do it so we can hear it. I said, okay, so episode 6, there was not one episode in the 200 and something, whatever it was.
Yeah, it's like 279 or something.
Okay.
Like that, I think.
There wasn't one where somebody wasn't at one of my studios listening, and approving. No one said, oh, yeah, you can do it. Don't worry about it. I'm sure it's fine, But what these sessions were people would come because they would love to come over. First of all, to get out of the studio where they were, have a change of pace, and they knew we were going to have fun. It wasn't so much about, oh, this is wrong, we have to change it. Oh, I think you missed the boat on this one and this thing and whatever. But rather, wow, that was great. It's so much fun seeing the music, with the show, and wow, that's really great. Occasionally someone would say, boy, when the monster jumps out of the closet, hit that harder or softer, or, comments along the way. But there would be like at least 2 or 3 people there every time, a writer, a producer, and a director, whatever. We just have a great time. They loved coming over. There he is now. Oh God, that could be. Anyway, so.
There's a dog, just
That's
FYI.
it, there's a dog. So, the idiot son back there. Anyway, so.
Was your process kind of the same thing as you described before? You had the picture, you were playing around with sounds?
That's right. Yeah, completely. And the X-Files was known for having a lot of music, a ton of music. And that's where... Idiot. Anyway, so, right from the pilot had a ton of music in it. Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay, I think that was the exit. All right, so I knew whatever I did, there had to be a lot of it, So,
So the episodes are roughly like 47, 50 minutes.
That's
About
right.
how much of that would be music?
Anywhere from a minimum of 30 minutes and as much as 40 minutes. So it was like where, we'd all make jokes about where there wasn't. Is there any part of this where there's no music?
So is that a lot for a drama then,
Yes.
versus what you'd usually do for other shows?
Times have changed, and there's no rules about these things. For some reason, a lot of CBS shows now of the dramas have again a ton of music, and sometimes I've seen fans write in about, could we have less music, please? And it's so damn loud. And as composers, we all want it to be as loud as possible. We don't care about the dialogue or the story. We just want our wonderful music being heard all the time. Well, good luck.
We'll talk a little bit about underscoring with dialogue. What's that like for you?
Well, I've read books on scoring by some of the great composers, Elmer Bernstein, Jerry Goldsmith, so forth and so on. And everyone sort of had their favorite kind of instrument group for under dialogue things. Jerry Goldsmith liked woodwinds, this one liked strings. It didn't, none of that really made any difference to me. It just, because I had this incredible advantage of being, in real time with the show. So a scene would go by and I'd listen to it and I'd have total control of the level of the dialogue and sound and the music. And I could do any kind of balance I wanted to. And what I would do is, at first I would have the dialogue be somewhat low, and the music be louder, right? And to just see how the music worked with the scene, and it was the right mood, et cetera, enhancing the story and the drama, okay? And then once I thought it worked, then I'd bring up the dialogue to be louder than the music. And that was a really good test, because I thought, they're probably going to lower the music in their final mix. But when the dialogue is really hot and the music is low, then you start hearing things that almost are missing from the music, and then you raise those things at that low level. And then when it's low, you can hear, all of the instruments and sounds. Now, the thing that was so amazing about the X-Files is somewhere in the process and early on, people were talking about the music, this is really cool music on the show and so forth. And Chris Carter would show up on the mixing stage, and he would tell the mixers, he said, the dialogue's good, but I want to hear that music raised, and the mixers would say, all right, how's this level? He said, no, more. Let's have more of it. Oh, Chris, man, come on, you can't do that. That's, we're killing the dialogue and stuff. Just do it. So, and it stayed like that through the whole thing. And I've never been on any other show, there might have been one, but I'll get to that later, where the music was that prominent, And I think that's one of the reasons why people noticed it, because they could hear it, So that was pretty cool.
So Chris Carter actually said in an interview once that often what scares you most on the X-Files isn't what you see, it's what you hear.
Yeah.
So what does a statement like that mean to you?
It means a great deal, because to me, all those episodes were like doing like a feature, like a mini feature every week. And that's just, you never knew what to expect. And they were so creative and so wonderfully, they were certainly spooky and strange and dark and scary, but they all made sense. They all were, there was some form to it, and the writing was always so spectacular, and the directing. It was just this magic moment, this chemistry of this group of people, that really put this thing together. And he talks about the scary moments, hearing and not what you see so much. Back when I was in my student days, I told you earlier that I was a big fan of, avant-garde and experimental music, and I've used some of those ideas where, I think a lot of people heard this and didn't really know where this came from or the origin of it, where some other composers would hear it and said, oh, that's like Stravinsky, or that's like Schoenberg, or that's like, naming a whole group of modernist, composers. So it was kind of cool that, Chris Carter and all the writers and directors, producers didn't, have a handle on that music. And they were hearing it, in a sense, for the first time, And you think, wow, this is so original and so wonderful. Well, the idea certainly is original, using that kind of music in a show. But if you took it, some of that music, and compared it to some modernist classical music, you'd hear some similarities, And that was really, really fun, to say the least.
Talk a little bit about your choices for when and how you would use music, and how to build a mood, translate emotion to music, that kind of thing.
Well, I thought probably the most important kind of overall global aspect of the music was so much about timing, of when you're if something's about to happen, are you going to give it away? Well, maybe, but how much? A little bit or not at all? And you're going down, and you're getting quieter and quieter, and then bam, something happens. That is, there's nothing more scary and dramatic, than that. But it's a, oh, goddamn dog.
I think we're okay.
Okay. So,
When
it's-
to use music and dramatic moments.
right. So much of the X-Files was dialogue, whatever percentages, 80, 75, 90, but a lot. And Mulder and Scully are talking and talking and talking, and Mulder is talking in his kind of not monotone, but his sort of undramatic way. That was a wonderful contrast to Scully's more emotional way she expressed herself, and then all the characters around them. I thought it was just very important to be supportive and kind of lay low, but even with the quiet, supportive music, there was plenty of, that there had to be something still slightly odd and off about it, and how you built up to certain moments, and then often I would hit on a combination of great rhythm combinations for some action scenes, which there weren't, too many of, and I'd find myself repeating those things because they would, in the episode, and they would, it would work so well, and just a combination of things you wouldn't know would work together, different sounds you wouldn't think of, a snare drum with a I don't know, with a harp, or just combinations of instruments that I really kind of loved coming up with. And the thing about, in X-Files there were the two main headings for the episodes. There was the mythology section, and that music was intended, and properly so, to be more sort of traditional. And then that translated well into the big orchestra score for the first movie. But the other shows, the standalone shows, to me, they were the most fun, because that was a wide open, I could just do anything, and I could experiment and try. And the more I got into doing that, the happier I was, and that translated into the happier Chris and company were, as well. And there's nothing like that as a composer, just nothing,
So what was a typical work week? Like, what was the turnaround for you?
Well, it was, you had anywhere from 5 days to 7 days to 8 days to 4 days. It would be, in that range. And the important thing that I learned to do, and served me well through the years, was the music editor would send me the spotting notes, which meant where music goes, where it starts and stops, and where the next piece comes in, et cetera, et cetera. And I would, and at the end of the page of that, he would put down the total music for the show this week is, say, 30 minutes, 35 minutes, whatever it is. And I said, okay, well, when does it mix? Or in other words, when do you need it by? Okay, we need it next week, next Monday, whatever. All right. And I just do the simple math. All right, I've got 5 days to do 35 minutes. So 5 into 35. Okay, I have to do that many minutes a day. And I don't know how, I just don't know how it worked out. But I never missed a day. I never missed a deadline. I said, this is impossible. I hear, colleagues of mine says, how do you do that, man? Don't you get sick once in a while? I said, yeah, but at the right times. Or you take a vacation, or, you've just had it, or I said, no, it's just, I love this. I love the show, et cetera, et cetera. And because if you miss a day, just one day, the next day you double up, or then you have to divide by 3 days or 4 days, and it's just more. So, and I also got into the habit of starting out pretty early in the morning and never going past, 5. Never liked working at night. A lot of my friends would, start working at 4 in the afternoon, work all night, and look like zombies, the next day. That was not. I remember the great David Bowie saying once, when he recorded, he could never work at night after a certain point in his life, in career. So we're going to have banker's hours, mates, right? We're going to get in there at 9, and then at 4 or 5 o'clock, that's it for the day. If we don't finish it, we'll come back. I mean, he was in a much more luxurious situation than me. He didn't have any deadlines, when the spirit moved him and so forth. But, so.
So did you use a synthesizer on every episode, or
Yes.
did you ever use a live orchestra?
No, just for the movies. Did I use? There was a couple of shows where Chris had found some. Who's that Irish singer who was big back then? It was the one-word name. Da. It was all this very echoey reverb with big string orchestra and I forget who that was, but I'm sure one of you people know. Come on, anyone? Gosh, it was
Not
anyway.
ringing a bell.
Oh, he probably knows. Shoot. Anyway, he got into that sound, and he said, "Oh, there's this scene where Scully sees God or something, and has this epiphany and this, that, and the other thing, and the sister comes back, and oh my God, and all this stuff." And we put in this song of, come on, someone with Google, God damn it. And they said, boy, if you could come up with something like that, that would be great. So I got a live singer, and we did that, and it was not words, it was and that kept coming back in a lot of the shows, called Scully's Theme. That's an interesting title, but anyway, that was recorded quite a few times.
Were there any other character themes or motifs that you had for characters?
Not like that, but what I did have is when those standalone shows, I had definitely, no way.
All right. Let's stop for 1 sec. Okay, so I think we figured out that Enya was the singer you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Mulder and Scully have this will they, won't they relationship. Did you ever do a love theme for them?
No. The only time I've done nice music for their possibilities, but nothing that, lasted and kept coming back in the shows. The only thing that came close to it was doing the X-Files theme in a very melancholy way with the whistle sound, but with a bit of a orchestration behind it, you know, strings, and that always gave me, when I get goosebumps, I'm pretty sure everyone else will. You know,
So-
like totally different subject, but I'm in the plane yesterday and I'm watching the Star Wars movie, right? Hadn't seen it in the theaters. And you guys have seen it, right? Everyone, right? Sure. So I get to the end and she's climbing up the, you know, the mountainside there, and you know it's going to be Luke. Doesn't say a word, turns around, and, you know, and I was a big fan in the day, but, you know, after 7 of them, you know, but that was a moment. So,
Are there any other X-Files moments like that for you?
well, yeah, that's what it reminded me of. I think in the very last episode, I think they're in a hotel room after Mayhem, right? And they're kind of snuggling up a bit, I think. Am I
Yep.
right?
Yeah, the
Good.
finale of season 9.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. And I remember, wow, this is going to be perfect to play the theme. The theme was like almost never used ever, you know, in the shows. But now you could play the whistle thing slower and moody and evocative and simple and somewhat, you know, sad and oh, I thought it worked great. And even, you know, when Chris Carter says, yeah, that's great, you know, it's great.
So let's talk about a few other specific episodes and some of the music you did with them. One of them, season 2, Humbug, was kind of a more comedic, lighter episode.
Humbug. I'm pretty sure that was about the
It's like a carnival kind of
right.
setting.
Okay, good. The circus freaks.
Yeah.
There was this wonderful actor who played one of the main parts, Vincent. I think then his name is Schiavelli or Schiavelli, something like that. You'd recognize this guy. Real tall, very, very, you know, somewhat a face with a ton of character, okay, and personality. And he had a growth in his abdomen area that was a person, a character that slipped out at night. Just thinking about that is just so great. And comes back and creates all kinds of, you know, situations, and how they were, you know, going to deal with this. I think there was some classical piece that had a very quiet kind of spooky sound to it that I did, that was a big influence. And it wasn't as simple as the Hall of the Mountain King, bum 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 bum, but it was, you know, it wasn't that tempo or that speed, but ding, ding, I mean, just creeping along, slightly comedic, but ultimately, you know, very dramatic as well. And that's what I love. And I love being able to combine that slight sense of comedy. And some of the other shows are way broader, you know, more broad comedy. But this one I thought was just this fantastic blend of really creepy, weird, but with, there was kind of a sweetness to it as well. You know, this big character, you know, he didn't want any trouble, you know. He was just this sympathetic, oh, I know this happens all the time. It was just so beautifully, you know, written and put together. And I I just felt it. I'm thinking back to that show, and all this flood of memories come back of that whole 9-year experience. And God, I mean, that I don't know how that could ever happen again. Oh, if you're lucky, it happens once in your lifetime, and I'm lucky. So.
Another episode, Home from season 4. It was like a family of inbred brothers.
Yeah. Now, that episode apparently was banned in certain European countries because it was just so rough, because it was just so scary and dark. And they told me about it before I saw it, and I said, that's not going to look as scary as what you guys are telling me. And they said, all right, well, you check it out. And it was way more disturbing. These 3 inbred brothers, like Deliverance style, but more disfigured and more weird. And their mother was under the bed, and it was a voice. And you understand that they're talking to her, and some of them, I don't remember if they kind of heard terrible voice. I don't know what it was, but you don't see her for a long time. But I remember in the script, it said the mother is under the bed, and she's on this flat roll-out thing where she has no arms or legs, and every once in a while they slide her out and put her back. And then she tells them, now boys, you go out there and kill them people and whatever. And it was like, I don't know if it was killing babies, but it was so dark. It was one of the, I forget if it was David Nutter who directed that or Kim Manners. It had to be one of them. Kim Manners. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was something. The one cameo I had in the whole 9 years was a Kim Manners show.
So that was season 8, Permanum.
Okay. Anyway, I had to report out to, talk about the Simi Valley, somewhere in the Simi Valley at 10 o'clock at night. Okay, get your outfit. I was a doctor. Okay. So 10 o'clock, and then we're going to rehearse at 11. All right. And I stand here, and then they say, just stand there. Okay, well, what else? Shut up, stand there. Okay. And do I react? Come on, give me something to do. No, you write the music, you just stand there. Okay. And I remember, and then at 12 o'clock after the rehearsal, it was what they called lunch. Okay. And then, craft services like this, every type of food from, prime rib to sushi and everything in between. Everything. And this gigantic group of people, the crew, everyone's there, and, here we go, and we're out in the middle of nowhere doing the show. And come back, and we start doing it. And, these 10-second, 20-second takes, and then cut. All right, do it again, rearrange the lights, camera move over here, and I'm going, what the hell is this? I just go home, and I sit in front of my keyboard and go, la, 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 and it's done. It's obviously not that easy, but this is incredible, and these actors, they have to repeat themselves a lot and keep the thing alive. My sister is a spectacular actress, Tyne Daly, sister-in-law, and her Broadway work is astounding, as well as her TV and movie work. And I always ask her, I said, how do you do it? She did a show on Broadway called Masterclass, which is a story of Maria Callas. It's basically a one-woman show that goes on for almost 3 hours, and she has to speak Greek and Italian and accents, and learn, this War and Peace volume of dialogue. It's, how do you do it? Oh, we just do it. I said, oh, man. Anyway, so I didn't do much, and I said, come on, well, you got to send me the clip. And they said, well, watch the show, and if you still want it, we'll send it to you. And I watched it, and it must have lasted 10 seconds, and I was there for hours upon hours. So I said, I'm very happy doing the music, and, you want me to do it again, come over and have everyone do something around my music room. Anyway.
A couple other episodes from season 5, Postmodern Prometheus, was a black and white episode.
Yeah, that was so damn original. It's incredible. I thought of the great Italian film composer who just won his first Academy Award, Ennio Morricone, did a score for a movie many years ago called something about, Heaven was in the title. It's not Heaven's Gate or anything like that, but it was shot it's a period piece shot in the Old West. And he took this piece of this French composer, Camille Saint-Saëns, who wrote this collection of pieces called The Carnival of the Animals. And one of them is called The Aquarium. And it's this very mysterious, almost waltzy type piece, sort of in a minor key. And I used that as inspiration to do the score to this episode. And it just worked out great. And it was off the beaten path from most of the other X-File shows.
So there's a season 7 episode, Closure, where Mulder finally learns the fate of his sister. And I think a Moby song plays at the part of the reveal.
Right.
Did you have any choice in song choice? Any input on that throughout the series?
Well, no. Chris is a big music fan, and Moby at that particular time was a big deal. And whether it was Chris, one of the other guys who brought it to Chris's attention, or, oh, listen to this, oh, that's great, that's really the right mood for this thing. And, they let me hear it, and they said, we want to use this. What's your opinion? What do you think? I said, oh, it's terrible, and they said, we don't care. I didn't say that, but just showing you that didn't matter what I said. And I said, oh, that is good. And I remember using that as an influence to do something. But I didn't have any choices in any of those pop songs, not that was necessarily all that pop, but so I think there's Jeff Bywater at Fox. Someone at Fox was, they had to clear these things, and it's all so complicated, pay the rights to the publisher and the writer, and you have to ask the songwriter, the artist, do you mind if this is in the X-Files? And people have said, yes, I don't want to be part of it, that's scary stuff, So
would you just get a note that you didn't need to write music for that section, or that there would be a song placed in there?
Well, when they sent me the episode, it was already in, and I knew, don't bother with this. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you mentioned you used the theme song within the score of the finale of the original series.
Yes.
Anything else different or special you did for that finale?
I think it was one of the bigger sounding scores, because it was the finale, and I think I made an effort to, boy, this should sound pretty robust and muscular, and more percussion, more rhythm, and thicker and bigger, and there was more places to do it. And then the contrast of the last piece, which I said earlier was the theme in this sweet, sweet, you know, melancholy way, and how that ended the thing. It was very touching. It was very, especially for, you know, me and everyone involved, you know, it had a real potent, you know, the curtain is coming down. So.
Are there any other favorite episodes or musical moments for you from the series?
Oh, there was the episode where they're on a ship and they go back in time and there are Nazis involved.
Yeah. Triangle, I think it's called.
Yeah. And there had to be like almost a big band jazz sound, and I got help. That's not I don't do that particularly well, but I got help from a friend of mine who is doing very well now. His name is Sean Callery, who writes for Homeland and did 24 and so forth. But he was a fantastic jazz guy, and he was able to make an arrangement of a piece I did for that episode. Swing, you know, like, I'm not sure if you saw a band in that episode or not, but that's what was needed.
You mentioned working with Kim Manners. Did you work with the directors a lot?
You know, usually in TV what happens, the directors have their director's cut that, you know, the Directors Guild has to, I mean, the producers and the studios have to honor the Directors Guild rules, where the director after the show gets so many days to do his cut, nobody interferes. Okay, big deal, because after he's done, he's asked to leave, and then everyone else does whatever they want to it. And it would be very rare that any of the directors would come to my place, but when they felt particularly interested and good about what they did, you know, they'd make it, you know, their business to come over. And working with him was, God, in all of them, it was almost all the same thing. You know, I had a great story about when, you know, Jillian came over for her directorial debut. So let me continue about just the great Kim Manners. Mm-hmm. But he would come over and basically, it sounds kind of boring, but he'd say, "Oh man, that really works. That really, wow, I was, you know, what I lacked in what I was doing, you made up for it, and this, that, and the other thing, you know." And I really can't remember getting into any kind of, you know, I got into plenty of, you know, scraps and scrapes on other shows with people, but not this one. You know, this was, like the young people say, it was all good. But there was that time when Jillian directed an episode, and she wanted to come over for the music. And everybody on the show said, "Oh man, get ready, this ain't gonna be good. She's tough. She's really, you're not gonna have a good time with her. She's, you know, really, you know, letting everyone have it. You know, she's got ideas." And I think, oh crap, okay, see what happens. So she pulls up and walks in with her salad and her, you know, those round aluminum things with the plastic. She's got that. Comes in, and my wife happened to be there, and she's very nice to her. Well, she was more nice to her after the music session, but she's, "Hello, yes, I'm Jillian." And she looks at me, "All right, where are we going? Where's, you know, okay, this way," boom, into the studio. She sits down on the floor, starts eating the salad. All right, I'm ready. Let's go. I mean, really, just like that. Here's the first piece. Oh, can you play that again? Yeah. Oh. Wow, that's good. You know? And then it was good. I mean, and the rest of it, oh, God. And then she comes out, then she's really nice to my wife and really nice to me. And, you know, but, you know, I get that, you know, coming in with who knows what this is going to be. And and if I have to be a taskmaster and mean, so be it. But it was so cool when it was as if she was trying to, you know, find something wrong with it. And she just couldn't, you know. What's that sound? Oh, that's the little gamelan bells type thing. Oh, I like that. That's good. Does that come in later? Yeah, it does. Okay. So.
David Duchovny wrote and directed as well. Did he come in for the music?
No, he never did. You know, I think he felt, actually, I could be dead wrong, but I think he felt sort of out of his element. You know, I think he didn't quite know, he maybe insecure about having an opinion about it, where you don't, you know, a lot of people I've worked with always start off these sessions with, you know, I'm not a musician. I don't know anything about music, and I always say, no, that's fine. This is not about this. It's about your story and what you're doing and what you want the music to, how you want it to help and support what you've done. Oh, okay. But he called up and he said, well, what are you going to do for this? And I said, well, we're going to, oh God, what was something about the zombies or something? Is there anything like that?
I don't remember.
Oh, Hollywood AD.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. There was some really different music in that one too. What was that show about? Oh.
The series had moved to LA by that point.
Yeah. Something about not turducken, but the duck chicken goose combination. But I think they were like zombies. I wish I remember that. So many of them. But all I know is, you know, he called him. He said, "Yeah, that's good." Or someone said, "Oh, David wants you to call him." Oh, I call him. "Hey, what's up?" And he says, "Oh, that was good. That was good." I'm trying to think of when it was bad. You know, there has to be some moments here when someone said, "You know, that really sucked." You know, you gotta.
He wrote and directed The Unnatural.
Yes.
Season 6 as well.
Yeah. That was good too. In fact, that had my cousin was a great guitar player. There was some slide guitar involved because it was a period piece of the Negro League baseball league, and this one guy who was an alien and one of the players, but it had that kind of southern bluesy sound to a lot of the score. Good, yeah.
It also has that sweet moment at the end where he's teaching her to play baseball.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Anything about that moment?
I really think it was bringing back that guitar sound. You know, that was a thematic moment in the show. You know, because that's definitely unusual. You know, there was no, you know, sort of southern, you know, slide old blues guitar sound like Muddy Waters or you know, B.B. King, whatever. Yeah.
All right, we're going to stop there and take a short break.
We are?
Yes.
Okay.
Briefly. Just briefly.
Okay.